You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hey everybody, let's have a spoilery talk about the latest episode of Moon Knight. Who is Layla? Where is the scarab pointing? Let's have a deep philosophical debate about killing children and the appearance of a demented Colonel Sanders, all on today's Dan Wickline Show. Stay tuned. A deep philosophical debate about killing children, only on Disney Plus. You gotta love that. The Moon Knight second episode dropped the other night, and this series is great. It really is. I have been on board with the MCU since Iron Man. I have, I enjoyed the Netflix series. Daredevil was probably my favorite one so far. Been with them since Disney Plus started. WandaVision, I've been doing these shows, talking about them. WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki, all of them. And I gotta say that as of right now, Moon Knight has beaten everything of all the series and most of the movies. This is really good now, and we're only 2 episodes in, so I am a big fan. Hot Toys has announced their Moon Knight figure, and I'm picking up lottery tickets just so I can get a chance to be able to get it. Yeah, I've got a lot of Hot Toys, but I'd love more. Now I want to get the Moon Knight, the Shang-Chi, and I still need the Winter Soldier from that series. So those are the 3 I'm looking forward right now. Wanda in the new outfit wouldn't be bad either, but I've got a Wanda. And my thing is just one of each is enough. I don't need every variation of Captain America, every variation of all these characters. So I'm good with it just being, one. But I don't have a Moon Knight, I don't have a Winter Soldier, and I don't have a Shang-Chi, so I definitely want to get those. I don't have a Loki either. I probably need to get one of those too. So, all right. Well, let's get into the episode. And this one was a pretty unique one because we left off with episode 1. By the way, Alligator Loki. People have been wondering if Alligator Loki ties into the fact that Moon Knight says later gators to everybody. And the crocodile... JD, we're going to talk the spoiler talk about Moon Knight episode 2. Yep. Thursday is going to be our Moon Knight spoiler discussions. So you can put that on schedule for the next couple of weeks. We're probably going to want to put the spoiler symbol up, maybe run the spoiler warning, JD, if we can, real quick.
I apologize. It would seem that Kyle may have... Oh, no, there it is.
That's the problem with having more than one producer on a single show. Things get messed up. But we'll get it worked out. All right, so spoiler discussion. Episode 1, of course, ended up with the big fight in the bathroom. Stephen gives over control to Mark. Mark immediately becomes Moon Knight, summons the ceremonial armor, and takes out the Jackal like nothing. Just pounds on him. And it's pretty fascinating just how quickly he takes him out because of what happens in this issue. It's funny. I call comics episodes now, and I call TV shows issues, which tells me that I'm the one with the issues. So let's dive into. We're going to do a bit of a recap and discussion about what happened. But I am, like I said, a real big fan of this series. So I may even think I think episode 2 is better than episode 1, and I really loved episode 1. So, all right. So we open with the sounds of Moon Knight versus the Jackal fighting, and we fade in on sand, and you're thinking, "Oh, are we in Egypt now? Did he, leave the bathroom and go right to Egypt to deal with this stuff?" No, it's the sand on Stephen's floor. It's perfectly laid out again. Stephen awakens in his bed with a start, having believed it was all a dream, jumps out of his bed and tries to run. And of course, he's got the shackle on his leg, so pops right over onto his face like he did in the Germany or in the Swiss Alps or whatever those Alps were in the little village. So he lands on his face. No broken jaw this time. But yeah, so the thing to pick up here is the fact that they had to fight with the Jackal. Mark got him out of there, and then Mark brought him home and took the time to put out the sand and hook him back up to the shackle. And I have a hard time with that. But we're going to get into that in my theory section at the end. So just kind of log that away. Now, Mark immediately gets up, gets dressed, goes to work like he would. And when he gets there, he sees that maintenance is working on the destroyed bathroom. And he goes to his security buddy, JB, who can't get his name right. And there's this big bank of security cameras, which you'd expect in a museum. But as he's going through them, and he's looking through the stuff, we see, Mark is like, oh, this is going to be Area 51 level stuff. This is going to be freaky. But we see Stephen, we see him at one point where he's staying low and kind of crying. And then we see him run and knock over the vase, but he catches it and puts it back. And he runs down the hall, but we never see the Jackal. Now, he tries to explain to JB, no, there's this big dog, this big hound chasing me. And JB's like, what? Like the Hounds of the Baskervilles, right, you donut. Of course, Hounds of the Baskerville is the third of the 4 Sherlock Holmes novels Sir Arthur Conan Doyle did. That one featured the idea of a demonic dog attacking people out on the moor, but it turned out to be just an inheritance scheme and a regular dog. Sorry, didn't mean extra spoilers for Sherlock Holmes if you haven't seen the Hounds of the Baskerville. But we do see Stephen exit the bathroom. They fast forward to him coming out, and he glares up at the camera. And where JB goes, see, it's just you. It's only you. Mark's like, that's not me. And the look on the face, that's definitely not Stephen. That is probably Mark. And again, I mean, that's got to be Mark, or at least we think. Now, from there, Stephen ends up in HR. You do something bad at work, you blow up a bathroom, you end up in HR. And he's basically fired in the nicest way possible. He's reassured. He's told, look, we're not going to press charges, but we have this group of doctors that are really good with people that have issues, and we'd like you to go see them. So that was really kind of nice. But then he says, do you have any museum property on you? And when he says no, he points out the badge. He gives the badge back. Now that made me wonder, because of things that happen later on, could the HR guy actually be part of the cult of Amit? Because they're looking to get the scarab back, And perhaps having HR say, do you have anything from the museum? The scarab would come to mind that is supposed to be at the museum. I don't know. Yeah, losing the badge was definitely a symbolism of him having to give up his identity. It was like a symbolic gesture of it. But then, of all things, he goes to visit Crawley, his friend. That's the gold-painted statue guy. And he's talking to him, trying to figure out what to do, and goes, yeah, I think I should go and try to find that, with the key, the storage room, and he hugs Crawley. And for the first time, we actually see movement. And Crawley doesn't do much, but he kind of side-eyes. And it's like, okay. So you got to wonder if they're really going to make this guy into a character like he is in the comics, or if they're just having fun with us to give him somebody to talk to. But and Crawley, deep down in his mind, is like, there's this crazy guy that comes to visit me and talk to me like I'm his best friend, and today he hugged me. So it just kind of, I'm wondering where they're going to go with Crawley, just because I think it's kind of a fun little thing. Jay says, Oscar Isaac is so good in this role. You believe he's two different people, at least. Yeah. Yeah. Oscar Isaac, actually, both Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke are nailing it in this series. I'm just starting to get to know May Colloway, the actress playing Layla. But she seems to be doing good, too. And, of course, F. Murray Abrams just is awesome with voicing Khonshu. But all right, so Stephen goes to the storage facility, and the interesting thing is he's never been there before. There's no thing on it. I would have liked if they went Venom and had Oscar do all the voices, even Khonshu. I think that's a great comment, but I think they did it that way to A, differentiate from Venom, but B, to show clearly that Khonshu, even though he's a voice in this guy's head, he is real. If they would have just had Oscar Isaac doing that voice too, I think it would have given a lot of people the idea that maybe this was another personality, and it's not supposed to be. Khonshu is supposed to be real, just like Ahmed is supposed to be real. So Stephen goes to the storage facility, which I guess is on the key, or at least the symbol is, so he's able to find it. And he goes up to the guy at the desk, and he's like, I have a storage facility here, but I really don't know where it is. And the guy behind the desk goes, oh, I know you. You're number 43. I see you all the time. I never forget a face. So that's great. And they walk down the hallway. And I don't know if you've ever had a storage unit that's inside a facility. They often do have it set up where motion sensors for lights, as somebody has to walk into an area for the lights to come on. But they're usually larger areas, and they tend not to be really loud, at least the ones I'm familiar with. This one, you walk like 10 feet, and then there's another motion sensor to pick up on. So instead of having these bank of lights all on one motion sensor, they're all like individual lights on a motion sensor. So you're walking, and the light above you turns on with this boom, but the one behind you turns off like a second later. So instead of having this light up a hallway, go down it, it's like lighting up your steps, which is kind of weird. For some reason, it reminds, and it doesn't, but it does. It makes me think of Get Smart with the hallway going, but it's completely different, but that's what it makes me think of. Comic book suspension technique. Yeah, it could be a little bit of that. And they're definitely setting up what happens later. That strobe light effect, similar to the way the light went on and off in the hallway in the first episode when Khonshu was coming down the hallway. So he goes into this little storage room, and it's interesting. It's a metal-walled storage room. It's somewhat reflective. Stephen finds a bag full of money, a cot, some other gear, stuff like that. But also in the bag is Mark Spector's passport, a gun, which Stephen is just like, oh, that's disgusting. I can't just get rid of that. And we know he doesn't like guns. We saw him not handle them very well in the first episode either. But he also finds the scarab from episode 1, the MacGuffin of the series. And he picks it up and he opens the wings on it, and it starts to float above his hand. And Stephen kind of figures out it's a compass, but it's not pointing like magnetic north. He's like, he knows it's not pointing north. So in his mind, he's like, okay, I've got a compass here, but I don't know what it's pointed towards. And at that point, Mark speaks, and he's in the reflection, and he goes, you shouldn't be here. And Stephen's like, hello, man in the mirror, and waves to him, which I think is cute. And they have this debate, and Stephen threatens to take the bag full of stuff to the police so he'll get locked away because, he doesn't want to hurt anybody. He thinks he needs help. And he forces Mark to tell him what's going on. And Mark's like, look, I am the avatar of Khonshu, which means you are too. And he's like, well, what does that mean? He goes, well, we protect the innocent and we dole out Khonshu's justice, which I think is interesting. He doesn't say we dole out justice. We dole out Khonshu's justice, which is a little bit like Amit's justice, though Amit's justice is a little different too. Amit basically weighs your entire life and goes, 30 years from now, you're going to kill somebody, so we'll just kill you now. Where Khonshu, he waits till you do something bad, then he kicks your ass. It would be that was a nice storage unit. Nice and open and airy. Every storage unit I've ever had has been completely full. So, now, something that we pick up from that is Mark's passport's interesting. The birth date on it is May 9th, which is Oscar Isaac's actual birthday. But the year is, what was it, 1981 or 87? I think it was 87. It was the year Moon Knight joined the West Coast Avengers. Kind of a neat little tie-in there. But also, we see on it its issue date. And the issue date was in 2018, post-Snap. So from there, we know that Mark was not part of the blip. Mark didn't get dusted. So he's been around all this time, which I think is interesting. I've also noticed that Layla and Mark, and this just popped in my head now. There's about it's a 7 or 8 year age difference between between Oscar Isaac and May Calloway. And Lisa mentioned that she thought the actress looked young to be playing married to Oscar Isaac. But if it turns out she got snapped and he didn't, that would explain the age difference. Maybe they were closer in age and she got dusted and he didn't, so now he's 5 years older than her. Well, or 7 years. So they were 2 or 3 years apart before. Now they're 7 or 8 years apart. Just something in the back of my mind popping up there. Jay says, whoa, that's an awesome catch about him not being part of the blip. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, you have got to look at every number they show you in this. Later on, we see a bus, and on the top of the bus, it has the letters WBN 0032 on the top, and that is a nod to Werewolf by Night issue 32, Moon Knight's first appearance. So everything they do that like crazy. Every time we see any kind of data like that on the screen, pay attention to it, pause, look at it. There's usually stuff there, whether it's just a fun Easter egg, like later on, one of the crew members is put in as the assigned officer on the case, where other times they give you like the date of a comic book, or they give you something interesting like, the fact that, well, it's obvious he wasn't blipped. So Mark explains what's going on, and he tries to convince Steven to take a nap, and Steven's like, no, I'm never going to sleep again. So once he explains everything about Khonshu and stuff, Mark again pleads him, look, let me take over the body. Let me get out there. I will take care of this. I will wrap this up. And Steven is like, no dice, not going to happen. He takes the bag and he says, I'm going to turn myself into the police. And he dashes out. And I'll pick up what happens next right after this quick break. Be right back.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.
This is The Experience.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hey there. Hi there. Oh there. You're as welcome as can be.
Hi, I'm Nancy McCann. Welcome to Friday Night Live on The Experience.
Welcome, everybody. It's Fat Jack's Comic Crypt. Brendan, Al, Jason, hanging out.
There I am. Welcome back to Kicking It with Henry, folks. I am your host, Henry Kumpa. It's great to be here with you guys.
So we are going to talk about books that are in stores this week.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Mishmash.
Hello, and welcome to the Black Comics Universe, presented by Peep Game Comics.
And you gotta love it that the first people in the minute to skim it are creators.
Up, everybody, welcome to another Wednesday Warriors. My name is Joey Galvez, and this is my pal Ambrosia.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Space Cadet.
Hey,
what's up?
Welcome, everyone, for another episode of I Must Ask You a Question.
Hi, everybody, welcome to Nerd News Now.
Hey, this is Rex. Welcome to Comic Collectibles.
Hey, hello, all you happy people. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. This is the crazy show that we do on Thursdays called What's in the Box?
What's in the box?
Comic culture and sales.
Thanks for tuning into The Experience. Help us out and hit subscribe over on YouTube and click the bell when you do. Need some help? Scan the QR code in the bottom corner.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. Today we are talking about Moon Knight Episode 2. We're doing our spoiler review, but before we get back into it, I am going to be doing something from now on called the Pick of the Week. That's where I choose a comic that I think is pertinent to the current topics, and that's something I think you might enjoy. The pick of this week is Moon Knight #1. It's the current series by Jed MacKay and, I never remember the artist's name. Cappuccio. So this has been a really fun series so far, but I picked up the original cover, the Steve McNiven cover, really liked the book, but the Gerardo Zaffino cover, absolutely love this one. So now, if you want to get this book, check your local comic shop. the comicshoplocator.com. That can help you find your local comic shop if you don't know where it is. I don't live near a local comic shop. The nearest one for me is a good 20, 30-minute drive away because I live near something called Frankensons, which is this giant comic book thing that happens 2 times a week, and neither day is really convenient for me to get to the comic shop or get to. So either Wednesday afternoon or Saturdays in the afternoon, day, and it tends to be packed. So when I need a special book that I want, I go out to Dynamic Forces. So I'll be plugging them a bit when I get a book from there, or if I get it from a local shop, I'll tell you. But this one I got from Dynamic Forces, and starting next week, I've already ordered it. The pick of the week will be in a frame up on the wall here, so you guys will be able to see it a lot easier than me just holding it. All right. So check out that book. It's a great read. I think issue 10 came out this week, but go back, get number 1. There's a lot of great covers. There's also a John Romita one. I think Dynamic Forces also has the CGC graded version. So if you like your book slabbed, they've got you covered there too. All right. The commercial break had us talking about our QR codes. And that reminded me that if you're watching the show, you might have noticed 2 different times that a QR code pops up in the show. In episode 1, when he was walking the girl through the museum and the little girl, and talking about, the sarcophagus and how the death is dealt with, there's a QR code on the wall. Well, quick thinking people scan the QR code from the episode, and it takes you to a free copy of Werewolf by Night number 32. So, a digital copy. So if you want to read Moon Knight's first appearance, just scan that from the first episode. Well, Marvel, not to be outdone, decided with episode 2, there's a QR code on the door to the storage unit. So it says number 43, and then it has QR code. If you scan that one, it takes you to a free copy of Werewolf by Night issue number 33, the second half of the first story. So if you want to read the first time Moon Knight ever suited up, when he got his powers in a very different way than what we know now, the first appearance of Frenchie, all of that stuff, along with Jack Russell, check that out, those 2 things out, and you can get free digital copies from Marvel. All right, let's jump right back into it. We sorry, private message from JD made me laugh. I'll tell you what it is later. All right, we're going to jump back in now. Stephen grabs the bag full of money, fake passports, all the stuff that he would need to show that he's been doing bad things. Steps outside the storage unit, and of course the lights start going crazy, and Khonshu starts coming down the hallway at him. Now, again, this is the second hallway scare that we've gotten in this series. The first one was with him going into the elevator. Second one coming out of the storage unit. Khonshu coming down the hallway. So I guess what it is that Daredevil has the hallway fights. Moon Knight has the hallway frights. What's funny is I didn't write it down that way. I actually called it hallway scares in my notes. But hallway frights is a much better term for it because it rhymes. All right, so he starts running, and that's the scene we've seen in the trailer with him holding the duffel bag and running down that. That's what that is. He runs outside, trips, and almost gets his head run over by a woman on a scooter. Well, that turns out that woman on the scooter is Layla. Yes, thank you, Eric Clapton, because every time I hear the woman's name, I think, Layla. You got me on my knees, Layla. All right. Well, she's driving the scooter. She's been tracking him by his cell phone that he turned on. And she goes, well, I thought that's what you wanted me to do because you turned your cell phone on and you left it on. He hops on the back and they start driving away. And he's like holding her by her shoulders, not sure where to grab her by. And she's chastising him, saying, you could have given me just a sign that you were alive. What's going on? And then and she's like, stop holding me like you're some kind of, I don't remember the terminology, but basically this, Lady Chatterley, just very prim and proper. He gets bumped and he ends up grabbing her around the waist. And then she refers to herself as his wife. And is like, okay, this is getting interesting. Well, they go back to his flat, and it turns out he had sent her divorce papers, but he didn't sign them. So she's come to find out if he's going to sign them, if that's what he wants for them to be divorced, stuff like that. And Stephen was like, I would never divorce you. Now, which is really interesting because he doesn't know her. But it seems like maybe some of Mark's feelings for Layla are bleeding through into Stephen. And later on, he becomes protective of her, where he isn't really that protective of anybody up until then. So it's possible that, there's an interesting phrase I heard today talking about dissociative identity disorder, which is what the Moon Knight suffers from, or what Mark and Stephen suffer from, is that the mistake most people make is that DID is multiple personalities. And it's not really. What it is, it's multiple aspects of a personality. So there's the protector aspect, there is the safe aspect, the more it splinters, the more diverse it gets. But usually you have the one that protects everybody. If something goes horribly bad, that's the one that pops up. If things get too stressful or things get too overwhelming, then the safe one comes in. Usually a child or a baby, or someone that kind of rolls into a ball and hides away. And you get these different types of personalities. There may be like a motherly one that doesn't protect the others, like, oh, I'm going to fight you, but more like, well, I made you a sandwich. I did this for you. I did that for you. Those are the type of different personalities that end up happening. So they're not like complete personalities. They're fragments of personalities, or the aspects of an individual personality. So that's how we should look at Mark and Stephen and what might be missing from them as well. So, trying to get back to my notes. I was a little off. So they're talking in the hotel, in his flat, and he's like, oh, this is your flat? He's like, oh, it's my mother's flat. And Layla's like, oh, you're talking to her again. So she still thinks he's Mark. She tells him to drop the accent, all this other stuff. And he's like, I don't know who this is. I don't know you. And she's starting to get upset because she's like, you don't remember all of our adventures, all of this other stuff. And then as she's looking around, she finds a book of French poetry from Marcelina Desbordes Villamor. And she holds it up. And Stephen starts quoting her the first few lines of her poem, Les Separas. And she joins in, and he claims this is his favorite poet. She goes, no, that's my favorite poet. So Stephen is kind of an amalgamation of things, and including some of the stuff of Layla. So some of the things that Mark liked about Layla got incorporated into Stephen. So, and the poem itself is fascinating because it's all, if you translate it, it's all talking about how he's basically saying, don't write me. Without you, I just want to slip away. So don't contact me. Basically, it's someone saying, now that we're over, don't reach out. Don't remind me of you. I just want to fade away. I just want to go. We are separate. We are gone. So, and that's kind of what Mark wanted to do. And we learned that Mark has kind of gotten away from Layla because he wants to protect her. We find out more why. But Steven is opening up to her, and he's about to give her the scarab. And Mark is like, don't do it. Don't show her what's in the bag. Do not give her that. And he finally says, you'll be responsible for the danger you put her in. And that's when Steven stops. And that's that protector thing. Mark is so protective of Layla, it bleeds through to his other personalities. Yeah, you're going to get her killed. That's the exact line. And that's what triggers it. That's the protection comes through the personality. And from that point on, Steven is protective of her too. Well, he tries to keep her from it, and she goes in and finds the scarab anyway. And that we learn that this is what they had been after together. That's what they had been searching for. And now she's upset. Oh, you just want to push me out of it, all this other. That's what the divorce is for. And it's obvious that all of this has happened. Mark's entire life has changed. And he sees the danger. And he wants to protect Layla by pushing her as far away as possible. And then hiding in Steven. At least that's how it comes across to me, is that Steven is becoming the safe house, the place for him to hide. Now, Layla explains that the scarab points to Amit's tomb. And that's why Harold wants it, because he wants to bring her back. Now, before they can go any further, there's a knock on the door, and Layla has the scarab, and she disappears. And it's two cops, two police detectives named Fitzgerald and Kennedy, which, come on, it's a nod to JFK, or they're fake names. John Fitzgerald Kennedy. And in the credits, the two actors are listed as Bobby and Billy. So right there, you get the vibe that these two aren't. And later on, we see them as they're taking them in. They've got the scale tattoo on their arm. So they're part of the cult of Amit. Now, as they come in, Layla has bailed. She's actually gone out the window and climbed up around, so she's hiding. But they come in, they say, oh, well, we're following up because we report that you took something from the museum. Well, again, he didn't take anything from the museum, but the cult of Amit knows he has the scarab, so they could use that as a pretense to come search his place. So this was all the plan, was to get him to basically get into his house, I guess. And again, that might be why the HR guy asked about if he had anything from the museum. But when they don't find it, but they find the passport and everything else, they use that to take him in, a fake passport, whatever. And as they're going, they run his information. And we see that Mark Spector is wanted for, again, read the screen. There's always that stuff there. His file number starts with 1975. That's the year Moon Knight was first created. One of the guys assigned to the case is one of the production designers. But we see that he's wanted for murders in Egypt, and we see 4 dead bodies. So that is likely tied into Mark's origin. You know, the whole thing that ended up giving him the power of Khonshu, where he dies and he's reborn and stuff. But we'll have to learn about that more later, but we get hints at it. It turns out they're not taking them to the police station. He's taken to this little area of London that the cult of Amit are living in, like a commune setup. And Harrow is there, and he comes and he gets him out of the car. And they have a walk and talk that Aaron Sorkin would be proud of. You know, and while the whole thing is happening, Khonshu is like flitting around him and saying stuff like, crush his windpipe, kill him. And then Harrow looks up and goes, is he telling you to kill me? You know, and he's kind of guessing the things that Khonshu would say. And Steven's like, what, can you see him? He goes, no. But I had my experience with him as I used to be Khonshu's avatar. I used to be his fist of vengeance, is what he says. So we get a little more backstory on Harrow, and it looks like that he, like I said, worked for Khonshu before switching over to Amit's mission. Now, as they're walking around, he's talking to him. He's kicking a soccer ball, which has got to hurt with glass in your shoes. Egad. But as they're kicking it around and stuff, they get into this philosophical debate, which is pretty much Harrow trying to sell Stephen on Amit's plan to basically weed out evil before it can take root, by basically judging people for their entire life at whatever point they're in, so you can prevent evil as well. Well, Stephen counters that with like, well, aren't you basically judging an innocent person at that point? You can't judge somebody for a thought. He says, I think about killing my boss all the time, but I would never do it. So should I be condemned for just thinking about it? He then brings up the classic, well, would you kill a child for what they might do in 30 years? Which is a debate they've had in Marvel Comics before, in the MCU before, about the idea of going back and killing Thanos when he was a baby, and it's the baby Hitler idea. So they get into that, and Harrow's counter is basically, if you have a diseased limb, don't you cut it off before it can spread to the rest of the body? And Stephen's like, but a limb is not a child. And he looks around to everybody else around, and he's like, you're not all into the whole child killing thing, are you? Well, Harrow at that point realizes, all right, this is getting us nowhere. He picks up his cane, and he says, this was given to me by Amit. This was originally given to her first avatar, who ended up betraying her. And I think that is going to be huge when we finally get to the reveal of who her first avatar was. And it may not be important. It may, they may just be referencing it. But if it was during ancient times, somebody who likes to judge people based on any points of their life, what they may do, it sounds a lot like how the Time Variance Authority worked, and which was set up by He Who Remains and Kang. So it is possible, and this is just a theory, but maybe her first avatar that betrayed her was Rama Tut, which is one of Kang's aliases. That would tie this into the bigger MCU canvas pretty well without having to get too deep into it. They could name drop it at some point. Then all the people in the know would go ooh and ah. All the websites would talk about it, and it would get out there. Also, he starts summoning another jackal. And the magic, of course, is purple, because purple in the Marvel Universe, purple magic means A, you're a bad guy, and B, it means that you're tapping into other dimensional powers. So the idea that the Egyptian gods are actually in the Celestial Heliopolis, which I covered on Monday, that they're in a pocket dimension away from Earth, waiting to be brought through, but they can't come through on their own. That's now lending some credence because of purple magic, and that he's tapping into it. So by tapping through to the other dimension, long-winded, but that's basically it. And at this point, Layla comes in and says, I've got the, comes in and tries to save him, says, I've got the scarab. And she runs up to him, says, summon the suit. And he's like, what suit? And he goes, fine, and just protect this. And she starts kicking ass. And all this is going on. They're trying to fight their way out of there with all the cult people, while Harrow goes on and summons this jackal and takes off. And we see that Layla is a very capable fighter and adventurer, and would be right up there with Mark, and they make a good pair. But that's the whole point, is that, well, I'll get into that, but the whole idea is that they fight their way out of there, and the jackal is chasing them. So they get away from the cult. The jackals are chasing them, and we will pick this up right after another quick break, and we'll wrap up this episode and breakdown. So be right back.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit ComicShopLocator.com to find a store near you.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
Welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. We are talking Moon Knight Episode 2 spoilery recap. I'm going to have to pick up the pace a little. I'm not used to the new breaks and stuff we're doing, so I got a lot to cover in just about 10 minutes. So, the Jackal chases Stephen. He gets thrown off the roof. As he's falling, Mark yells, "Summon the suit, summon the suit." He ends up summoning the suit, but it's not the Moon Knight suit. He summons the Mr. Knight suit. Tailored 3-piece suit, loafers that look like they're wrapped, really cool looking wrapped loafers, form-fitted helmet, glowing eyes with a stitching down the front to show that Mark is pretty fractured. So we get the Mr. Knight suit. He survives the fall. Mark goes, "What the hell are you wearing?" He goes, "Well, you said summon the suit." He goes, "Yeah, the ceremonial armor from the Temple of Khonshu, not this demented Colonel Sanders look." And that's now my new favorite line, the demented Colonel Sanders look, describing the Mr. Knight outfit that was created by Warren Ellis and Declan Shelby. But the cool detective personality that usually comes with that look, that's completely absent. This is what Stephen looks like when he manifests Khonshu's powers, as opposed to the actual Moon Knight that Mark looks like when he does it. So their different personalities come through differently when they tap into the powers. Now that he's using the power of Khonshu, Stephen is able to stand up a little better to the fight. You know, he rips off a bumper as he's getting up off the ground, and he's not beating the Jackal, but he's starting to hold his own. He gets a good punch in. He does a Muhammad Ali imitation of float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, you know, and he's acting like a boxer, which is interesting because Mark Spector has a boxer background in the comics. But he gets thrown around about. No one else can see the Jackal, and that's what we learn, that only Moon Knight and Harrow can, or only Mark and Harrow can see the Jackal. Now, this might be they have to be somewhat touched by the Egyptian gods, or it could be maybe they have died and come back. Maybe it's something like the Harry Potter creatures that, you know, but for some reason they can see it and nobody else can, but they can feel it because Layla gets involved, gets smacked around a bit. She throws a bottle on him and the water takes she can see the shape of the creature from the liquid from the beer. So it is there. They just can't see it. There's also a bus in the background. This is the same bus I talked about with the Werewolf by Night Easter egg. It has another Easter egg on it, an ad for the GRC, the Global Repatriation Council that we first hear about in Falcon and the Winter Soldiers. So this is only like the third Easter egg we've seen that ties this into the MCU and specifically into a certain place. The other two, and you blink if you miss them, there are books on Stephen's desk that one is about Asgard and the other is about Wakanda. So that's as much as they're doing tying it into the MCU. Now, Stephen realizes that he's not beating the Jackal, but he's holding his own, but he can't do it. Mark convinces him, turn over the body so that he can save, keep people safe. He does. the Mr. Knight costume transforms into the Moon Knight costume, and Layla yells, "Get him away from the people." They do a run through the city and crossing rooftops. Moon Knight finally gets a hold of him and takes him down and impales the jackal on the spire of this ceremonial altar outside of a church. And the thing crumbles into dust and disappears. And he gets his crescent darts or batarangs or whatever back. And those are neat because he just pulls them out of his chest like they're unending. Like he can just keep doing it. But he puts it back and it goes back. So that's weird. Then Khonshu arrives, Moonarangs, I like it. Khonshu arrives and we find out that in all of the fighting, the scarab has dropped. So Mark doesn't have the scarab. Khonshu is pissed. Turns out some homeless guy finds the scarab and Harrow finds him and says, I need that. That's mine. But we can offer you food and shelter in exchange. He comes over, he takes it, and then he just holds the guy's hand and sucks all his life force and he dies. So Harrow, not a good guy. We spent 2 episodes thinking maybe he's got a point, maybe not. No, he's a bad guy. Just bad guy altogether. And then, so Khonshu's pissed. He's like, you told me that he wouldn't be a problem, talking about Steven. He's like, I will handle this. And he goes, well, you don't have the scarab anymore. He goes, well, we got to get to the tomb before him then. And Khonshu goes, well, let's go. He's like, where are we going? Where do you think? Well, he says it with a curse word in it. And I love it when Egyptian gods are cursing. I think that's just great. Next thing you know, we end up in a room. It's probably an Egyptian hotel room. We see in the mirror what looks to be Steven sitting on the bed. His fists are all bloody, like he's been trying to punch his way out of the mirror. He looks defeated. But sitting on the floor in the room itself is, I'm guessing Mark, because at this point you're never quite sure. In his underwear only, drinking a bottle of bourbon or scotch or something. He gets up, looks out the window, and we see 3 pyramids, and we are definitely in Egypt or Cairo or wherever this is, but it's definitely in Egypt. So that's how the episodes go. A scene for the ladies. There you go. The only change in the ending credits is the last image was Moon Knight last week. This week it's Mr. Knight. Now, I've got some theories I want to cover. I told you about the QR codes, the DoD. Okay. Mark talks about getting out of his deal with Khonshu. He promises Steven that he'll, they argue at one point. He promises that he'll get it taken care of and then you'll never see him again. I think maybe Mark has this idea that once he takes care of the Amit problem, he's going to fade away and just leave Steven, the body, and not, and he won't be any good to Khonshu. The problem is Khonshu has already picked his successor, and that's Layla. So, and he uses that as a cudgel over, like a pendulum over Mark to keep him in line. Well, if you don't do what I want, I'll go ahead and get Layla to be my avatar. And Mark doesn't want that. And that's part of Mark's protective desire to protect Layla. And again, that's how I talked about how it bleeds through into Steven. I think we're going to get more of that. So now my final theory, I'm going to try to cover this really quickly, is I don't think we've seen the only personalities. In the comics, there's a third personality, is Jake Lockley. So what's up with the missing personality from the comics? Well, I think we've seen Jake. I think Jake is the one between the 2 personalities. Because all the stuff that's happened to Steven when he's been unconscious, postcards from his mother, the flat's paid for, he's put back into bed with the sand fixed, the shackle in place. Somebody asked Dylan out. The goldfish gets replaced when it dies. Steven hasn't done all that, and none of that seems like something Mark would do. So maybe there's this other personality that's trying to keep Steven, that's trying to protect him and smooth out the 2. So I think we're starting to see that. I think that might be Jake or another personality. It's just a theory. We will find out as the season goes. I am absolutely loving this show. It continues to surpass. I thought episode 1 was great and that episode 2 might dive a little bit. It didn't. It was absolutely wonderful. And I cannot wait for episode 3. And I'm sad that it's only going to be 6 episodes and we're already a third of the way through. All right, that's going to wrap up our recap and our coverage today. I will be back next week on Tuesday. I don't know what Tuesday and when it will be, but Thursday we will talk about the 3rd episode. I'll figure out Tuesday and Wednesdays sometime this weekend. I'll let JD know at some point. But stick around here in the experience. We got lots of great stuff coming up. Right after this show is What's in the Box with Miss Jen. She grabs a random box out of her warehouse, opens it up, and puts whatever is in there for sale. It might be a box of kittens. It could be anything. Tune in and find out. After that is Space Cadets with Jenna and the crew from Space Cadets talking pop culture, whatever comes to mind. Then tonight we have Kicking It with Henri. That's our late night show at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific. And in between those is the show I can't not pronounce. I'm just going to call it Nerd War. There's another syllable in there, Nerd Something War. I'm not even bothering anymore. So, What's in the Box right now, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Space Cadets, 8. What's in the Box, Space Cadets, Nerd War, Kicking It with Omri. Great lineup tonight. Have a great weekend. I will see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Did you know that every experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR